Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actual advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. If this is your first episode, hello, my name is Nina Adio, the owner of I Do Wedding Marketing, which is a social media marketing agency specifically for wedding industry businesses and professionals. And on this podcast, we love to geek out on all things wedding business related, specifically as it relates to marketing, sales, and other things you guys need to help our businesses grow. Today I am very excited to have Alan Berg on the podcast. My first experience meeting Alan Berg, now I've been following him for a while, was at the Inclusive Wedding Summit earlier this year. And Alan and I both spoke bits on the same topic, which was AI. But the reason why this worked so well was because Alan was using AI in a totally different way than I do. So I use AI as a tool to get more social media content, essentially. Alan uses AI as strictly a sales tool. I mean, you don't even have to touch social media to use AI, and that could be Claude, ChatGPT, and Alan has a bunch of other tools he uses to get benefit from AI and the sales tips Alan does. So I wanted to invite him on the show so he could speak to all of you about that. Alan also has a code for us. So if you use the coupon code podcast at shopalanberg.com, you'll get free shipping on any of Alan's books or special book bundles. Alan's books are so good that he sells them in bundles because it is that often that wedding venue owners, wedding planner teams will buy the books for their entire team. So that's why this is going to be really special today. If you haven't heard of Alan yet, but I think you have, he's been in the wedding and event industry for years. He's the former vice president of sales at The Knot. He published 2 wedding magazines and is a longtime wedding pro educator. He's also the industry's first certified speaking professional, a fellow of the Professional Speaking Association of the UK and Ireland, and one of only 44 global speaking fellows in the world. Wow. When I went to Wedding MBA, the first presentation I went to was one of Alan's. So he's spoken in 14 countries, including 5 in Spanish, which he taught himself. I've been trying to Duolingo Italian, but Alan has written 13 books, including Shut Up and Sell More, Stop Selling and Help Them Buy, and Why Are They Ghosting Me? His latest book is From Browsing to Booking, Website and SEO Strategies for Wedding and Event Pros, which he did with Brian Lawrence, who has been on the podcast before. Plus, he hosts the Wedding Business Solution podcast, and you guys are going to love that one. He has great bite-sized episodes as long as long, fuller-length interview ones. And fun fact, Alan is an executive bourbon steward. So whether it's sales or spirits, he knows how to make things flow. So I've been excited all day. So I want to get started, guys. Let's get ready for a great talk with Alan Berg. Alan, thank you so much for being here today. Where are you coming from today?
I am tuning in from central New Jersey, not far from Princeton University.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we were just talking a bit before the show started about I'm in Long Island, New York, Alan's in New Jersey, but neither of us right now are planning on going into the city.
Not if I can help it. Even after 4 years of university and a year of working for Young and Rubicam Advertising in Manhattan, I was like, I am done with this commute. I'm done. I would rather get in an airplane, which I do almost every week. To me, it's like time travel. Every time you get in an airplane, you get in a metal tube and you get out and you're someplace else, right? It's like time travel every time. It's wonderful.
What do you like to do when you're on the plane, Alan? Do you watch a movie? Do you read a book?
It depends upon where I'm going and what I have to do. So if I'm giving a presentation, I will always review my presentation. But my plane routine, there's something about when they close the door, my eyes close. So I know some people are like, I can't sleep on a plane. I was like, I can't stay awake. So it's like, I'm done. Um, I do have movies on my iPad in case there aren't any good ones there. So it's if I'm heading to a presentation or heading to a client, I will definitely review my stuff there. I do Duolingo French, so I will do Duolingo on the plane. So I'll do that. And then, then some movies. It depends on how long the flight is, because, some of them are a hop and a skip, and some of them are 6 hours cross country or into another country.
So a good mix of work and play.
Yeah, yeah. But I try to do both. The work is always first. If I'm headed for a client for a conference, that's first. So, the thing, and you present as well. So what people don't realize is the work is all the stuff that happened before, right? Just like if you're a DJ, the 30 hours you put into that event that they don't see, right? I remember one year wedding MBA, I was already presenting 3 times and they came to me 2 weeks before and said, could you present another time? And normally I would love that because the more I'm on stage, the more people come to my booth, the more they want to find out how I can help them. But it was 2 weeks before and I said, I don't have the time. And they said, well, it's only 45 minutes and you're going to be here anyway. I said, I have the 45 minutes. I don't have the 20 to 30 hours to prepare another presentation. And that's the work that we do, just like with a wedding, right? The work that goes into before the day is gone, right? Day is ephemeral. It's there and it's gone. As anybody who's planned a wedding as getting married knows, right? You plan for a year and then whoop, and there it's gone. But it's the same thing for all the vendors. You don't order the food that morning if you're a caterer, right? You don't plan the songs the morning of when you're a DJ or a band. It's all that work that went into it. So that comes first. And then if I have time, then it's, je prends français, or I'm going to, uh, you know, watch a movie.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Alan, in Long Island, my start in the industry, or my first job as I do wedding marketing, was with Long Island Bride and Groom, which used to be Wedding Pages.
Right.
And
Stu Freeman.
yes, yes. And so you had Wedding Pages as well. Was that in New Jersey?
Yes. So New Jersey and the Hudson Valley in New York. So those of you not familiar with the area, if you're looking at Manhattan and you went kind of up above the Bronx, that's called the Hudson Valley. The Hudson River goes down the side of Manhattan all the way up past Albany. When Henry Hudson actually did that route, past West Point and all that. So that area up there, all the way up to Albany, that was my territory, and then New Jersey way down. So started with that, and that's how I had met Stu. So I was first selling for Wedding Pages, then I was publishing 2 Wedding Pages magazines, just like Stu, and then sold my franchises back to Wedding Pages, who then got bought by The Knot, who was a new company at the time in 1999, 2000.
So could you imagine from when you were involved in the magazines, where that would take you today, where you're speaking worldwide, you're speaking in French, you're,
And Spanish.
yeah, and Spanish, jet setting, that's how I
Yeah.
visualize it. I'm sure you're
Right.
like, Nina, it's not that glamorous. I just told you I'm playing Duolingo on the plane. But
Right. Well, but but that's the thing is you do social media, right? Our social media life and our real life are not the same thing. People see me in a country, but they don't see what it took to get there. They don't see the delays. They don't see the sleeping in an airport. They don't see the lousy airplane food or whatever it is. You don't see that. You see the result of that. But, to your question, when I started, I got into the industry because my friend bought a franchise of Wedding Pages magazine, and I was in a job where I was making really good money, company car, paid benefits, and I hated it. I just hated it. I hated going to work every day. I like to say that I worked a half a day, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 12 hours. That's a half a day, technically, right? So my wife was pregnant. My other son was turning 3. And I just hated going to work every day because I was never home, and the job was really killing me. And my friend bought this magazine. Now, I had never been in the wedding industry. I had never done outside sales. I had never done cold calling. And I had to get a car because I had a company car. And my wife was pregnant and not working. So on paper, I was talking to somebody last night about this. It makes no sense. Like, why would you leave the security of this really good paying job with all these benefits for this? And the answer is that the money doesn't make up for that. The money doesn't make up for not being home with your family. The money doesn't make up for not loving what you do. So I took the leap, and it was really just, I got to get out of here. And then after 5 years of doing the sales, like I enjoy this. So we bought the franchises. And after 5 years, they wanted me to work for them. I didn't expect the Knot. I didn't, the Knot was a startup. They were a little company. They bought us, and I was a regional sales director. And then I became vice president of sales. And all along I was speaking, but I didn't consider myself a speaker. And this is an identity thing, right? If somebody asks you, what do you do? You know, do you say what you do, or do you say how you help people? Like, how do you describe that? If somebody says to me, what do you do? I say, I'm a professional speaker. I make more money from sales training and consulting and stuff like that than I do from speaking. But I identify as a professional speaker. I didn't back then. I didn't. I identified as vice president at the Knot or as publisher of Wedding Pages. So I was speaking as part of what I did to help my vendors and potential vendors. But then my identity became a speaker actually in 2007 when I spoke in Montreal for, well, it's now ILEA. Those who've been in the industry long enough know it used to be called ISIS, which is not a good name to have. So, and somebody said to me, Alan, that was a great speech. You're a great speaker. Are you a member of the National Speakers Association? And I said, what's that and why should I care? Because I didn't identify as a speaker. Even though I was speaking all the time, all around the country, I didn't identify as a speaker. So I joined the association and realized I was a professional speaker. And it was part of my job, but I was a professional speaker. And that's when working on the craft of speaking became more intentional, because I didn't know there was such a thing before. I didn't know you could do that. I just did it. Alan, you're going to go speak at Wedding MBA. Okay. Right. Alan, you're going to speak in a NACE. Okay. Right. So I did. So looking back, I pinch myself and say, how did I end up speaking in 14 countries, right? How did I end up, I was telling you I was going to Ireland. So Steve Neary, if you're listening, I'm going to see you in October.
Hi, Steve.
I'm going to Ireland for the 12th time. 12th time. I remember when I had never been there, right? All of a sudden I'm going there for the 12th time. I pinch myself, and I did a podcast about this, what is luck? Right. And they say that, I think it was Seneca, the Roman philosopher, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I was lucky enough to be on a stage that there was somebody in the audience that was from this other place that invited me to go there. And then they brought me here, and then somebody else saw me there. And, it's just, it's those things, but I couldn't have predicted this. If you said, okay, write out the future, it didn't include that, because the baby my wife was pregnant with has an 8-year-old son now. Okay. So I've been doing this a while. And somebody asked me on another podcast, why do you do what you do? And I said, it's very simple. And I had never thought about it before, but it just came out. I said, because it brings you value and it brings me joy. And if it does both of those, I will cash the check. But it has to do both. And coincidentally, I'm listening to a new audiobook. I do a lot of audiobooks. And this one is with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu talking about joy. And it's just really interesting to hear that, because I never thought about that word until the last couple of years. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do this. You don't have to do what you do, but it brings other people value, and it brings you joy, brings you happiness to do it. So yeah, I'm going to do it.
Alan, I think the fact that you've been involved with the sales and marketing process of the industry for so long, I find it to be an extreme benefit, because you understood what it was like when it was magazines. You were really on the ground when it was online directories, and then it started shifting where people are kind of trying to do their own with websites, SEO, and now AI. So can you kind of speak to how having that full experience allows you to better help wedding pros today?
Thanks for the question, because some people question my qualifications because I've never been a wedding vendor. I have worked with wedding vendors for over 30 years. And I've been going back in the day. I was at people's kitchen tables and in their basements and in their converted garages and working with them on their businesses. And I say this, that, I could walk into a DJ's office today, sit down, the next couple that walks in, I could sell them a wedding, but I can't do the wedding. right? Because it's a different skill. And that's the biggest thing in our industry is I understand business. I've owned businesses. I've had to hire people and fire people, and I've had to do payroll, and I've had to take bank loans, right? I understand what it's like to run a business, and this is the wedding business. And some of my speaker friends like to say that the speaking isn't the job. Getting the gig is the job. And the thing in the wedding industry is it's exactly the same as the wedding, doing the wedding or doing an event is not the job. The job is getting the work. And that's a different skill set. So that's a skill set I understand very well because I've been in business. My degree is in marketing and accounting, and I've had various jobs doing things. Most of my life has been in sales. And I've been in sales that is I'm not going to say it's tougher than what we have in the industry, but it's different because if you've never had to cold call, right? And a lot of people in our industry have just never had to do that because of your like I spent 10 years driving around knocking on doors like the people listening, right? Knocking on venue doors. We're not even knocking, just walking in, really, right? And bridal shops and videographers and officiants, whatever, and invitation companies. And I spent 10 years doing that where you weren't waiting for me, like you weren't expecting me. In our industry, most people, because it's weddings, are advertising, marketing, networking, whatever, to get leads. And that lead is already showing an interest. Whereas I had to find out if there was an interest. Now I had to be smart about it. Yes, they're wedding businesses and all that, but you expressed no interest in having me come in, certainly that day, right? People are waiting for this. So I understand what it's like. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be so great if my phone would ring or if I would get an email, if someone would fill out my contact form, I wouldn't let go of that lead until I had a yes or a no. Right. I would just not let go of that lead. I would be like, I would say, you want to be like a friendly dog, but you just gave it the steak bone from last night's dinner. Right. And
Yeah.
that dog, as friendly as that is just not going to let go of that bone. Right. And I see too many people in our industry are taking for granted these leads and then just assuming that they're fake leads or they're getting ghosted. They must not be interested when the truth is we're all ghosting somebody right now. Everybody listening, you and I and everybody listening is ghosting somebody right now. You saw the message. Maybe you even opened it and read it, marked it on read, flagged it, whatever. And maybe you'll get back to it because you do want to. And then what's going to happen is the next 50 messages bury it and then all that. So what if they put themselves at the top of your inbox? You'd be like, thank you. You wouldn't be, oh, you're annoying me. You'd be, thank you. And too many people are giving up too easily. And my job and your job is helping the people listening to do more weddings and events because it is a privilege to be chosen to do a wedding or an event. Because if you think about it, it's a one-time event. That's it. Even if it's a holiday party, it's this year's holiday party, right? But if it's a wedding, it's a one-time event, right? They're putting all this money in with no law that says they have to. They have to have a license and, have someone who can perform the ceremony. But there's no law in any country in the world that says you have to throw a party when you get married. And the reason people do, my opinion, is that they don't think they're ever going to do it again. So why not celebrate that? My son got married last year. He hopes it to be one and done, just like with his parents. My parents were 65 years married. My in-laws, 63 years. My aunt and uncle, 69 years. They were married, 69 years. And that's what we hope when we get married, right? Is that this is going to be it. So that's why we spend all that money. So if you were chosen as right, Steve, you were chosen as the officiant, right, to do their elopement, you're the only one. That means they said no to everybody else. If you're the caterer, they said no to every other caterer. They said no to every other band or DJ. They said no to every other photographer, videographer, etc. That's a privilege every time. And we want to help more people get that privilege so that they can help more couples have a memorable, amazing day. That's our world. That's the wonderful world that we live in. But it's a job because we have to do the work. And that's the privilege I have of understanding business, right? I understand enough about photography to be dangerous, enough about music because I'm a keyboard player, played in bands to be dangerous. I understand enough about dress shops and dresses to help them sell it, right? And I could go into a dress shop probably and help them sell it, but I don't have to do that work. I have to help you do the work you chose because you chose it, right? You chose to, to do invitations. You chose to do flowers. Let's help you do more of that because if you're not getting paid for it, it's a hobby.
So how can wedding pros bring more of the fact that they're offering a value, right? It sounds like it's value-based sales and follow-up. So how can they bring that in to more of their sales routine and process?
If you stop talking about products and services and you start talking about the results of choosing you specifically to provide those products and services, it changes the narrative. Nobody needs what you do. They need the results of what you do. Okay. Just like I have a car. I don't need a car. I need to get places. Well, I have choices. I could skateboard. I could roller skate. I could walk. I could take Uber. I could take Lyft, right? We have choices. I chose to have a car. Now, when I go to choose that car, there's other considerations that come in. How many people, how much stuff, and how big is my garage? And do I even have a garage? All those kind of things. So it's when you're selling photography services, if you're selling photography services, somebody sells them cheaper. As a matter of fact, when you were new in business, it was you. You sold them cheaper, as all of us when we're new in business. I think my price now is, what's it, 5 times, 6 times what I charged in 2011 when I left the knot, right? So we were all the cheaper one at one time, and there's going to be another new competitor who will be the cheaper one tomorrow, and that's okay. If they can't perceive a difference between the results that you're selling and someone else's results, then they'll choose the cheaper price. We would all do that. We all should do that. If you don't perceive a difference in results, why would you pay more? The only reason we pay more is because we have a perception of a difference that could be tangible or intangible, right? There could be something about it. This caterer is giving me more food than the other caterer. That's tangible. It could be that I want to be seen as working with this particular person. That's an intangible thing, right? Like you could have 2 photographers that are fantastic and one of them charges twice as much, but you're like, oh, they must be better because they charge more. I'm going to go with them when the other one does great work. They're just underpricing themselves, right? It could be that. So talk about results. Talk to them about their results instead of talking to them about the products and services. If you're a wedding planner, every wedding planner, if they make a list of what wedding day management looks like, or partial planning looks like, or full planning looks like, looks the same. It doesn't matter if you're doing a celebrity wedding or if you're doing a budget wedding, the list looks the same. The difference is the results are going to be different based upon a bunch of factors. So you touched on AI a little bit. This is where AI can help because we tend to talk about what we can do. I can do these services for you. I can provide uplighting for you. The band is going to play this song. We're going to have a trio at your ceremony. Okay, great. That's what, right? Why do I need you to provide that is the difference. So there's branding and there's your brand. So if you're watching this on video and you look over my shoulder and you see that I have my 13 books over here, that's branding. Okay? That's not my brand. My brand is what people say about me. So if you would ask Nina, or if you would ask Steve, or you ask somebody who's seen me speak or worked with me, tell me about Alan, whatever you say is my brand, right? And that's the same thing with you, whatever people say about you. So where do you find that? Reviews, thank you notes, social comments, text messages, emails people have sent you. All of these things are your brand because it's your social proof. This is your world, Nina, right? This is your social proof. Social proof is people who have experienced what you do talking about their experience. And they do that various ways: email, text, handwritten notes, social comments, Google reviews, the Knot, Wedding Wire, whatever reviews, right? So what I've started to do with AI is learn more ways to use your existing content to find this language. And this is why it's important. When you start with a blank screen, if every one of us went to ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or Claude or whatever, started with a blank screen and asked the same question, we're probably going to get the same answer. Now, if you have your paid version, which you should, because I believe if we want people to pay us, we should be paying other people, and it's only $20 a month. If you have your paid version and it has learned who you are, because you can do that, then we might get a little different answer, right? Asking the same question. But here's where the magic comes in. If you start with your content and then ask it questions, we're all going to get a different answer. So what's your content? It's your website text. It's your brochure text. It's any blogs that you've written, right? If you've written books like I have, that's your content. It's your reviews. It's the thank you notes. It's the testimonials, all these things. If you upload the words of your customers and then start asking questions and say, what kind of results can couples expect if they choose me? Right? And just leave it at that. Now, you could give it a longer description and say, I am Stephen Neary, and I help plan elopements here in Ireland for couples coming in from the States and from other places. My couples tend to be Gen Y with some Gen Z, maybe a few Gen X's, but they're mostly Gen Y. And I'm trying to create a fill in the blank type of thing. I need it to be this long, this short, this format, bullet points, whatever. Using their reviews, help me write this. Okay. Now you're going to get a completely different answer because you're going to get an answer that's unique to you. So I'll give you an example. I do something called a mastermind day. Mastermind day is up to 10 businesses come together. We sit around all day and we talk about your businesses. How do you explain what that is? Because there's no slides. There's no description. There's no title, subtitle, 3 sentences, 3 bullet points. How do you describe that? So I uploaded hundreds of comments of people that have done it and said, it's hard to explain what a mastermind day is until you've done it. These are people that have done it. Tell me, what is a mastermind day? Give me one short paragraph, but write it in the you voice as if I was speaking to someone about that. So when you attend a mastermind day, you can expect, right? As opposed to it's about me. No, it's not about me. It's never about me. It's always about them. Well, them is the word you. Okay. And then I said, what are the 4 best takeaways of a mastermind day? And it gave me them. I said, okay, now give me the 10 best takeaways, but support each one with a single sentence from a testimonial. And then give me the attribution of who said that. Boom, there they are. And here's the beauty. You could have uploaded thousands of comments and it's going to do it in seconds. It's not going to get tired. It's not going to get distracted. It's going to do it. Now, garbage in, garbage out. You don't give a good instruction, you don't get a good answer. Okay. So this is the place where you can now say, all right, I'm creating a marketing piece because I'm doing a wedding expo. Okay. Or I don't know what to talk about on my social media. So, actually, I'll give you a great one. I spoke for the Canadian Professional DJs last night, and I asked this one guy, he was talking about SEO. I said, so do you blog? And he said, no. Oh, he said, no. He said, yes, but he blogs about, how do you choose your music for your wedding or stuff like that. I said, how often? He goes, not very often. I said, well, Google doesn't like that. Google likes fresh content. I said, what if you blogged about the weddings you did? So what if you went to ChatGPT and you clicked the little icon that lets you talk to it, and you went and you talked to it and you say, hi, I did a wedding yesterday and I would like to create a blog post for this wedding. So let me tell you the story about this wedding. So this is a wedding for Chris and Jen. And Chris and Jen were a fantastic couple. They were so much fun. They were into Game of Thrones, and they did this, and they brought their dog, and their dog had a helmet on, and you just talk to it. And you say, okay, write me a blog post about that. You gave it the content and you create the blog post. So this is the beauty of AI, that people are not using the tool in the way they could. And if you think about it in the way of a tool, I was saying to somebody, I drive a car and my car has cruise control. And my new car has cruise control that keeps the distance between you and the car in front of you and will keep you in the lane. Well, my old car didn't have that. So I had to keep that control. Well, before I had cruise control, I think I've always had it, but before you use cruise control, you have to keep your hands on the wheel and put on the pedal, and you do that. So I'm still driving, but my new car is helping me, not driving for me, helping me by keeping the distance to the car in front of me so that I'm keeping a safe distance and I can control how far that is. And it will, if I veer a little bit out of the lane, it will keep me in the lane. But if I take my hands off the wheel, it'll tell me, no, I'm going to turn off. You have to put your hands on the wheel. AI is a tool. Don't have the AI doing the work for you. Have AI helping you get the results that you want because you ask it better questions, which somebody I heard at a conference said that people over 45 get better results from AI because we give it better instructions. And when I said that to my assistant who graduated college last year, she said, yeah, I give it 8 words, you give it 2 paragraphs. Exactly. So how can AI help you come up with your brand voice and talk about the results? Well, the words of your customers are the results. And you know what they're not going to be talking about? Your camera, your speakers. They're going to be talking about how they felt, how you made them feel, how the experience of doing business with you, how you were so responsive. They're going to talk about what you did for them, packing their dance floor, or just nailing their design theme because you really understood them, and talking about how you felt like you were more of a friend, not just a vendor, you were a friend. Their words you can't use. You can't say to somebody, you're going to feel like I'm more like a friend. You can't say that because you don't know that, right? but they can because that's their experience. And that's the other beauty of reviews, is that they're talking about things that are their experience, not you promising that result. I remember one of my favorite quotes. Somebody said, Aldo Ryan said, "Alan, you're probably one of the only speakers I can listen to without once looking at my watch." That's a great quote. Well, then somebody in Chicago saw that and wrote to me, "Alan, I was looking at my watch because I was hoping it wasn't over yet." Wow, made it better, right? So we need to get more comments. We need to ask for reviews. We need to respond to our reviews. That's important as well. But, the whole idea of how do you talk about value is you talk about results that people have already gotten by working with you, because that's real. That's IRL, right? That is their experience of working with you. Therefore, you can't take that away from someone. If I go to a restaurant and say, "Man, the service was fantastic," you might go there and not think it's fantastic, but it was my experience. So I said that. That's my experience. So of course you're going to use that one.
So I know that the listeners already are like opening up the ChatGPT tab and they're getting their reviews in. So kind of now what, right? Like where can they place this? How can they use it?
Okay. So a few things that I've done with clients. So let's talk about people that already have a website and already have a bunch of content. You probably haven't read that content in a long time, if ever, if you ever read the content. So the first thing I would do, and I did this on my site, is I went to a page on my site and start with the most popular pages, took the text, or you could actually just put the link in and say, okay, this is my wedding page on my website. Help me update this and then tell them who your audience is. I am a wedding, whatever. I'm a wedding planner. I'm a wedding DJ, whatever. And my audience is Gen Y, Gen Z, right? That's pretty much who my audience is right now. Help me update this text for that audience, right? So you could start there. You could also then say, here are reviews from people that I've worked with. Help support the statements that we're making with single sentence testimonials from real customers. Now, if you have the attribution of who the couple is, where they got married, city, state, you can put that in for your SEO and you can help on that. So you can pull these quotes. And if you go to my website, alanberg.com, you'll see there's single sentence testimonials all over the place. I call them speed bumps. I want you scrolling, seeing another one, scroll, see another, scroll, see another, not a carousel at the bottom of the page and not a testimonials page that nobody's going to look at, right? I want to have it where you're already looking. So that's the first thing I would do. And if the wording on your site is stale, right, or it's just about services, then say, okay, here's my website, here's the wording, here are my reviews. Help me rewrite this page. I want you to help me rewrite the text on this page to talk about the results in the you voice and put you in quotes as if I was speaking to the couples about the results they can get, and help me take my content, take the reviews, put that together and give me new wording. And it will do it. Now, don't copy paste it. Read it. Edit it. It's called iterating. Go back and say, hey, that's good. It's a little long. Hey, that's good. That's a little short. Support that statement. Do you have a single sentence that supports the fact that we do X? Put that in over here, right? You use this word too much. Change it to this word over here. I don't say amazing. I say fantastic. I don't say brilliant. I say this. I don't say fun. I say quirky, right? And you could have it tweaking. It's called iterating. And just brainstorm with it. Another way to do it, I just finished reading a book called The AI-Driven Leader. And I've only done this once or twice so far, but here was a cool idea. Go to ChatGPT and say, okay, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. I want you to act as my thought partner. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is the format. This is what I need. Interview me. You're asking ChatGPT, interview me one question at a time. And it'll ask you a question. Now, you can either be writing or you can actually talk to it, and it'll talk back to you. And then just have it go back and forth until you get what you need.
You know, that could be a fun podcast episode. We could be interviewing ourselves on our own podcast using ChatGPT.
I have not done that yet, but that's a good idea. Now, have you done this, Nina? Have you asked ChatGPT to roast you?
I have not. I think I'm too fragile.
Well, so I did that. I was in Vegas and I heard somebody say it that morning, and I did a workshop. I did a 3-hour workshop before Wedding MBA. And the workshop was over and I said, hey, you know what, guys? Somebody said this morning I should have ChatGPT roast my Instagram. I said, my Instagram I don't think is interesting enough to roast, but what if I just ask it to roast me? Should we see what happens? Now, I had not seen it. And I did it in front of a room of people. And the funny thing is, the very first line that came up, it said, "Oh, so you think you're an author?" I was like, wow, well, it's going right. It went right in there. So it can be fun with that, is to do something like that. And then the more it knows about you, this is why you want the paid version. You can go in and you can give it information so it understands who you are. So my ChatGPT knows I've written these books. It knows what I talk about. It knows who my audience is. So everything is approached from that angle. That's why I'm going to get different results than you will, because it's approached from that angle. So something that I'm doing right now is I may or may not create a bot that people can come to ask me anything, right? And I'm going through the motions of uploading the content. So I'm uploading my podcast transcripts. I'm uploading my book content and stuff like that. And I uploaded something yesterday, and I think it was from a transcript. And it's supposed to give me a dozen, they call them chunks, so questions and answers, right? And I uploaded this, and it said, "Wow, that's classic Alan Berg." Whatever. I was like, ChatGPT just said, "Wow, that's classic Alan Berg." I was like, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And that's why it's different than Perplexity, which is much more analytical. So I'll use that for analytical stuff. But just how fun that it knows me well enough to go, wow, this is core to what you speak about. Like, okay, it understands me, so I'm going to get different results. I'm getting my $20 worth,
Oh yeah,
over
I
and
love
over and
it.
over.
I have it too, and I mean, I have it make wicked wedding themes for me because I got the wicked bug. It's
Okay.
it's really fun. But if you do the Alan bot, I don't know if you've brainstormed names yet, but I'm thinking like Ian, like AIAN, like Alan, but it's still it looks the same, right? 'Cause
It
something
does.
like that where you can still have
Well,
it.
I have a son, Ian, so I don't know if I want to do that, but
Yeah.
like Ian Reitman is spelled that way. But I could not get AskAlanAnything.com. It was not available. I did buy whatwouldalansay.com and whatwouldAlando.com. So I do own those. I'm sitting on those just in case, and then I'll see. But if you're thinking about a bot for yourself or a chat bot, the hardest part is training it. All right. So I'm training it with the content from my 13 books, the content from 300 podcasts, so that it understands me. But then you have to go in now, and we're in the process of tagging all of those, so that if you ask a sales question, it will only look at the sales answers, if right, all these things. So it's a lot of work, because if you think about it, if it just gave me a dozen chunks from each of 300 podcasts, and then it's got 13 books to work with, where it's giving me, I think, at least 100 chunks from each of those. So that's 1,300. But it's a couple of thousand questions and answers that I have to now go through. So stay tuned.
I'm already so excited for when Steven and I start using it. Steven's a client, so a bit, well, Alan said to do this. And I'll be, well,
Well,
I asked Alan.
I'm going to put both of you guys on the beta test
Yes.
list so you can see, does it actually sound like Alan? Because that's the key. You'll know it's a bot, but I want it to be giving, correct factual information. And that's the hard part is AI can hallucinate. AI can do stuff. And when I have to scold it because it summarized something when I didn't ask it to summarize, and it'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. I summarized this." I was like, "Yeah, I didn't ask you to. So why did you do that?" So it's like people, but not like people.
So, Alan, you are a ghostbuster, which means you help wedding pros overcome. Part of me wants to ask, like, if they casted Ghostbusters for the wedding industry, who would your cast be with you of the team?
I would be part. I would go on part of the team, but
Yeah.
you know what the thing is, I get ghosted, and it's funny because I actually have one of the follow-up emails that I send is asking them if they're just testing me to see if I follow up the way that I teach. That's one of my fun follow-ups on that. Are you just trying to see if I practice what I preach here? But there's no such thing as getting rid of the ghosts, because the reason that people are ghosting us are so varied. It could be they didn't like your response. It could be somebody else got to them first. It could be that they got distracted, right? Life gets in the way. The fun part when somebody tells me that they're following up again and again and again and again, and somebody finally reaches out, is that most of the time the customer apologizes to the business for not having gotten back to you because they saw the messages. And like I said earlier, we're all ghosting somebody. We saw the message. We might have even read the message. We might have even, like I said, flagged it, marked it unread. We'll get back to it later. So why are we ghosting somebody? Because something else is a higher priority right now. So if you don't follow up, you're giving up. And for those of you who have seen me speak before, you know that my favorite phrase is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And it's true, because if I stop following up, then I have given up on you when you may not have given up on me. And I have an automated system. It's not AI yet. I'm actually helping somebody develop an AI responder, but right now it's just automated follow-ups. I have 8. I might make it 10, but right now it's 8. And it's amazing how many people get to that 8th one, ghosting me the whole time. Now they have checked the box saying, I'm interested in sales training, a website review, consulting, or whatever. And they're ghosting me. And then the 8th one says, the subject line is, I guess you're all set. And it'll be like, hi, Nina, you reached out about having me help you with sales training. And since I haven't heard back, I guess you're all set. And your team is converting all the leads you need to, and you're profiting as much as you want to. I'm not going to bother you anymore, but I'm here if you need me. And how many people come back and say, no, I'm not all set yet? I'm thinking, really? It's your 8th message, and now you're thinking to tell me that you still need my help, right? And a lot of those people will then ghost me after that. They'll be like, I just want to let you know, don't give up on me. That's why I might make it 10 and go out with that. I had somebody recently, a DJ in South Dakota, who emailed me. He had come to a workshop that I did, and we had secret shopped everybody at the workshop. He only followed up twice. Came to the workshop I did the following year, same conference. He followed up 10 times. He messaged me recently. I follow up 14 times now, and I just booked somebody from my 9th message. None of his competitors are still following up.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a way. We're talking about Duolingo and gamifying things, right? Yeah. I'm sure there's a way to gamify this where you kind of see and check, at what point.
Well, that's where the data comes in, is, which message is it that resonated with them, or timing wise, or, why. But the thing is that some people respond to your first message, right? And you don't even think about that. They just did. So great. It's the ones that don't. They're like, oh, now it's the second one. Okay, that's okay. But when it's the 6th, right? What if you didn't follow up, but somebody else did? And that's what I always say is, if you picture when an inquiry comes in, they have taken the paradox of choice, which is, I want to know all of my choices. And they've cut that list down to the few that they're inquiring with. Now, ideally, it's one. It's just you. But it's usually not. Sometimes it is, but it's usually not. So if it's a handful of businesses that they've reached out to, that's a fraction of the ones that they could have reached out to. And you made the short list. Why would you give up? So visualize there's 100 people standing in a room, and they all represent one of your competitors. Now, maybe they're not the same price point. Maybe they're not the same quality, but they were on the same platform. They were all on Instagram or TikTok or The Knot or Wedding Wire or whatever. Well, all these people are there, and they could have chosen them, and they didn't. And they start disappearing. And now you're standing in a room and you look around, there's only 4 or 5 of you. Wouldn't you work harder for that sale if you could see that it's only you against these other people? And what do they say? If you're being chased by a bear, you don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be faster than the other people, right? So here, I don't have to be better than 100 businesses. I already made the short list. I just have to do this better than you guys. And we know that so many of them are so bad at following up. We do secret shopping. We've secret shopped over 700 businesses since 2023. 15% never responded. Some of them were technical issues, but 15% ever responded. Over 50%, 55% respond once, and that's it. They're done. They think they're done. 2/3 twice, and they're done. About 3/4 3 times, and they're done. Over 80% 4 times, and they're done. By the time you get to 5 times, you're at almost 90% of the businesses have given up at that point. So if you do 6, you're better than over 90% of the businesses. And you only have to be better than the businesses that they reached out to, because they're the only ones that are potentially following up. Yet when we do our secret shopping, people have given up way, way, way before that. And then I hear all the time, I just booked somebody from number 5. I booked somebody from number 7. I booked somebody from my 8th follow-up. And you know what? The couples are saying, hey, I'm sorry we were buying a house. Hey, I'm sorry I had finals. Hey, I'm sorry my daughter was sick. Right? We were trying to save some more money. We had to put the date off. My partner got deployed, right? All these reasons that people don't get back to you. And if you give up, the answer is no. If you follow up, the answer might be yes.
So I know we have people in that 55% listening who are only following up once. What is the fastest way they can start implementing this, whether it's manual, whether it's using AI, setting it up, etc.?
Well, if you have a CRM and you don't need a fancy CRM, you don't need an expensive CRM, any CRM, a CRM being customer relation management software. If you have a CRM, which could be, I use Zoho, you could use Honeybook, you could use 17 Hats, you could use, what is it called? Like Ridiculously Easy CRM or something like that. It's like $10 a month or something like that. You could set up automated follow-up. So if somebody inquires, it triggers the first message. And if they don't respond, it triggers the next message and the next one, the next one. It's called a cadence, right? So I have cadences that are, when you respond, when you inquire, 30 minutes later, you get my first response. Now, why do I do 30 minutes and not 3 minutes? Is very often I'm standing on a stage, and if somebody scans a QR code and they check a box, say, I want to find out about sales training or a website review, and I'm still standing in front of you, how did I possibly send you that reply, right? So I made it 30 minutes. And it's funny, everybody comes back, oh, thanks for getting back to me so quick, right? But if you don't respond, you're going to get another message either the next day or the day after that. And my second message is usually, hey, Nina, just making sure this made it through to you yesterday, right? Just making sure I made it past the spam filter, right? If you don't respond, they're going to wait a couple of days, send you another message. You don't respond, you're going to get another one. And I break it up. It's not like 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. So it's like day one, and then it's 2 or 3, and then it could be 3 days later. Then it could be 5 days later. Then it could be 3 days again. Then it could be 7. So it's not always the same day of the week, right? It's going to send different messages. And then it spreads out. As it gets away from it, it'll spread out to 7 days or to 14 days. The last one is 30 days after the previous message that says, hey, I guess you're all set. And mine takes about 2 months. Now, there's no deadline on what I have. So I could literally just have this go forever. But, and every one of the messages is different. For you guys, you know the wedding date is a certain date, so you could set your cadence up to say, all right, I'm going to follow up for 3 months. I'm going to follow up for 4 months because the wedding is a year away, right? If your business is chosen sooner, you might cut that down sooner. But if I was a wedding vendor, I would go more than 2 months. I would have another one ping. It might be a month later, but I would have another one ping just to see, because if it's automated, who cares? Who cares? Just send them another one. Cute subject line, something fun, something make them smile. I always like to make people smile a little bit. One of my messages says something like, I wanted to do something witty and funny. You're probably wondering why I'm in your inbox. So I wanted to try to do something witty and funny, but instead I wrote this message, right? So I want you to smile. And then I have another one that's like fun bullet points. The subject line is, the answer is the Colossus of Rhodes. And then it's bullets saying, you're all set, or you want me to come right away. And the last one is that it's double jeopardy and you didn't study Greek mythology and you need help, right? Something like that. Again, I just want you to smile. So don't give up and start slow. If you're following up X number of times, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever, add one more. That's all I want you to do, is add one more and see if you get any responses. So if you're following up now once, then a couple of days later, send them another message. Like I usually do the next day, which is just the same subject line, but inside it would just have a preamble that says, just making sure it made it past your spam filter yesterday. Okay, that's it. Put yourself at the top of their inbox. And then see if you get some people like, oh, hey, thanks, I was busy with whatever. And then I would wait a couple of days. And if you haven't already tried another method, if you have a phone number and you haven't texted them or you haven't called them, I would do that, right? And if you still haven't heard back, wait a few days and then send them a single sentence. Are you still looking for a creative videographer to capture your wedding memories? Are you still looking for a fun DJ to, bring your dance floor to life? Are you still looking for a beautiful venue to host your wedding, right? Just something like that. You want to get the no. If everybody who inquired booked, you couldn't handle the work. Think about it. If every single person who inquired booked, you can't handle the work. So you're supposed to get some no's. You don't like hearing no, but the truth is you have to get no's. So get them to tell you no is better than being a ghost, because the ghost might be a yes. But if you assume it to be a no, it's a no. So I want to hear the yes or no. So a lot of my messages are single sentence. Are you still looking for me to help you with whatever? And if they say no, I can take them off the list. And if you have something else to offer, that's great. So if they say no to me with sales training, I say, when would you like me to reach out again? Right. And they might say, hey, hit me in the summer. I just had that with somebody. He told me to hit him up in May. I hit him up in May and he said, hey, I just had hernia surgery. I'm recovering from that. I said, when would you like me to follow up again? He said, catch me in the middle of the summer. Great. I put in a task in my CRM. It's going to message me and say, hey, reach out to Jim then, right? So that's where the CRM can help you. But just do one more than you're doing now. And when that works, add one more. And when that works, add one more because you're getting the result. It's easier to follow up on the leads you're getting more than to go find a new lead. Just think about that. You don't have to spend more money. You don't have to spend more time. Just follow up on the leads you're already getting more instead of trying to find another lead who, doesn't even know about you. These people do, and they've already expressed interest.
I love it because also, we, in one way or another, pay for these leads. And it doesn't even mean if we're on the knot, we could be paying with time, right? Because we're posting,
Absolutely.
paying with
Absolutely.
our CRM. It's like make the most out of these leads. So I'm really excited to hear what people say. Hopefully you guys will message myself or Alan and let us know, when that difference maker comes and when you get that response. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the low-hanging fruit. When someone's already expressed interest, don't let go of that until you hear yes or no, and be okay with the no as long as you're getting enough yeses. And the more you follow up, the more yeses you're going to get because these are people who've already expressed interest, which means they've read your reviews, they've looked at your photos, they've seen your social posts, your reels, or whatever. They've expressed interest. Let's work them instead of trying to find people who don't even know you exist.
Yeah, because let's say if your average is 1 out of every 10 says yes, let's say, getting those no's is exciting because it's getting you closer to the 10th.
Well, I'm going to give you an example. I was working with somebody in Italy, and he's on a website in the States, and he would respond to every inquiry, but only 1 out of 10 couples would respond back to him. Okay, so that's not good. I mean, these 10 people inquired, and only one of them would get back to him. So clearly, to me, it's him, whatever he was doing, right? So we looked at what he was doing, we changed it. And he ended up with a whole script of 7 or 8 different follow-ups that he could do if he doesn't hear back what to do. But right from the get-go, right from his first one, it was completely different, right? I got rid of his brochure because, it opens up tiny on a phone. The print was too small. And the purpose of a brochure is to get someone to inquire, but they've already inquired. So why are you sending them a brochure? Okay. So got rid of the links, got rid of the brochures, just having a conversation. 3 days later, he had gotten 9 new inquiries. And he messaged me. He said, I got 9 new inquiries and 6 of the 9 have already responded to me. So he went from 1 out of 10 to 6 out of 9. Didn't spend any more money. Was on the same platform with the same ad, with all the same photos and reviews. So it wasn't any better quality lead. It was him responding better. He went from 1 out of 10 to 6 out of 9 with the leads he's already getting. And everybody listening here can incrementally, if you're already doing well, you can change a little something and do a little better, do a little better, do a little better. And, some of you might actually be able to spend less money on your advertising and marketing if you can convert more of the leads that you're getting. But too many people just keep throwing more money when they're not working the ones they're getting. So why are you trying to get more leads? You want to get flooded? I actually did a podcast about this. You don't need more leads. You need more conversion. Right. But yet people chase leads. I said, no, it's like one of the podcasts I did, I was just seeing it for this AI bot, was about you get what you measure. Right. And I had a client of mine call me one time and said, how many phone calls did you require your sales reps to make? I said, I didn't. Because what do you mean? Because he used to work in a call center and had to make 100 calls a day, make 100 calls a day, 100 calls a day. I said, because if I measure phone calls, I got phone calls. I measured sales and profits, so I got sales and profits, right? So you're going to get what you measure. So measure the right things.
Alan, I'm normally always excited to ask this question, but today I'm sad because it means we're getting towards the top of the hour. And it is, what is your morning routine?
I get up, I open my laptop, and I do my QuickBooks. Right. So I download all my transactions from the banks and the credit cards, and they go into QuickBooks. It takes me 5 minutes at the most, and it's done. If I do it every day, it doesn't build up. It takes no time at all. I might peek at my P&L, my profit and loss statement, because again, You get what you measure. So I'm looking for profit. So I'm looking, how am I doing this year versus last year, year to date? Okay. After I do that, I go into LinkedIn and Facebook, and it tells me whose birthday it is. And then I send them a private birthday message, in a private message, not in their wall, a private message. Every year it's a different message. Those of you that have been getting them know it's a different message every year. And yes, it's me. It is not AI. It is not a bot. It is not my assistant. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook and over 4,000 on LinkedIn. So every day there's somebody's birthday, and there's probably a lot of birthdays, and not a lot. I mean, it could be 5, it could be a dozen. Sometimes, some days it's 15 or more on Facebook, but still doesn't take that long to do that. And I have not looked at my email yet. I have not looked to see who has commented on any social posts or tagged me or whatever, because if I do that, it will suck me in like Voldemort, and I am no longer able to do anything. So I first do QuickBooks, it's done. I do the birthdays, it's done. Then I go and say, okay, did anybody tag me? Anybody comment on anything that I posted? I'm going to look at that. I'm going to respond to those. Once that's done, I will then go on my email. And then I go on my email and I see, now, because I do business with people in many, many different time zones, I'm looking to see, okay, somebody messaged me last night at 1 a.m. my time on the East Coast, but they're in California. They can wait. They're not awake. They can wait. Somebody messaged me overnight from London, but they're 5 hours ahead of me. It's like, okay, I need to respond right now because their day is getting long, and here my day is beginning. So I'll look at stuff like that. And I have, again, people in Australia, well, they're sleeping. Okay, good. People in India, they're sleeping. Okay, I can wait for those people, right? So then I'm going to look and see, what do I need to do there? Once I have addressed whatever I need to do right then I go work out, right? So I've done that. I've worked. Then I go work out. Then I have breakfast, take a shower, get dressed. And then I go back into my inbox and other stuff like that. Now, I have a list. I have a little pad with a light that sits on my nightstand. So if I pull the pen out, it puts a little light on, and I'll write my stuff down when I have to do. But my morning routine, if I'm here, because I travel a lot, is QuickBooks, birthdays, social interaction, email, in that order. If I'm away, may or may not do the QuickBooks in the morning if I'm away, but I might. But it's always birthdays, that. And then my other routine is my Duolingo, which is when I'm having breakfast, I do my Duolingo. Now, if I'm working out, I might do the Duolingo. So I'll be on my treadmill with it. Today I went out for a walk because the weather's getting nicer. I went out for a walk, so I can have video calls with Zari, on my app. And so I'm walking down the street and my neighbors are hearing me speak French because I'm looking at my phone and having this video call with an AI bot doing that. So that's going to work into the routine so I don't miss my streak. Today was 1,612 days of French, so I do not miss my streak. But that is my routine in the morning. Is first thing, it's going to be the QuickBooks, the birthdays, the social comments, then first looking at the email.
I love the birthdays. That is really cool. And then I want to ask, as an educator, a speaker, and an author, how do you continue your own education beyond learning French?
Yeah. Well, so a couple of ways. My professional education is, I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. I'm a member of the Professional Speakers Association of the UK and Ireland. I'm both a certified speaking professional here and a fellow over there, and one of 44 global speaking fellows in the world. So I will attend 3 or 4 speaker conferences a year, and 3 in the US and 1 in the UK or Ireland, at least. And they're not cheap. These are not, $150, $200 conferences. These are $1,500, $1,800 conferences, plus airfare, plus hotel, plus whatever. And I do it partly for the networking. I do it partly for the ideas. I go, I don't even look at the agenda. I go and look at the schedule on the plane when I'm headed there and say, okay, now what sessions do I want to go to? Because some of the best stuff I've learned is sitting at lunch, sitting at the bar, in the hallway. And at the point of my career, I want to give back to my speaker community. So I want somebody to say to me, like, I can think about a speaker that we had a mutual friend, and he said, hey, Alan, my name is Frank. We have a mutual friend. Can I ask you a question? And we're in the hallway of this hotel, and there were a couple of kind of club chairs. They said, yeah, come on, sit down. We were there for 3 hours, right? And I was giving value to Frank. Now Frank has become a friend, and I could ask Frank for, if I need, but I also learned by giving. In college, I led study groups because if I could teach you, it meant I knew the material. So professional education for me is that. And then the other thing is audiobooks. And my audiobooks range from business books to fun things like Audible has things called words and music. So like it could be, I listened to Stevie Wonder, right? Or I listened to, it was one about Usher. There was one that was Elvis Costello, and it's them talking about their music as well as hearing their music, right? Snoop Dogg's was really, really interesting, those combinations. And then there are business books. Then there are life books. I love Adam Grant's books like Give and Take and Hidden Potential. The one I'm listening to now again is with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. The one before was a book about whiskey, right? So I think we need to be well-rounded. We need to just not focus too much because some of the best ideas come from outside of our industry. Audible said I listened to over 70 books last year. I don't know if I finished them all. Sometimes you start one, you're like, I don't know. But I'm sure it was well over 60 because I tend to be listening to more than one book at a time. One when I'm driving, one when I'm working out. I also listen at a faster pace because we're from New York, so everybody speaks too slow. So we have to speed it up. So that's my education is, wow, I'm listening to this book about whiskey. And I was like, ooh, that's an idea that one of my clients can use. I'm listening to this book about joy. Oh, I need somebody who needs that help. Here's it, right? That's how I do my professional education. And something a lot I've been listening to lately is talking about purposeful practice. So are you purposefully trying to improve your skills, your business skills, your networking skills, your golf skills, whatever it is? Is it purposeful practice or are you just going through the motions? Or as we like to say, do you really have 10 years experience or do you have 1 year experience 10 times over?
Alan, thank you for being so generous with your time and your value. Where can our audience find you?
Pretty easy to find. alanberg.com, ALANBERG.com. My podcast is the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. You can find that on my website or at podcast.alanberg.com. Or on Apple, on YouTube, and pretty much anywhere. My books are there. There are audio books. There are Kindle books. Todos mis libros disponibles en español. Un de mis livres disponible en français. So if you want Stop Selling and Help Them Buy More Weddings and Events in French, you can even get that one. So pretty easy to find.
Love it. And I will put all of those links in the show notes, including iwantalan.com, which is where people can reach out for you about consulting, sales training, speaking, and all the things. Thank you again, Alan, so much.
Thank you, Nina. This has been fun.